the shadows, down low. You don't know what I'm going through, don't know what I'm going through. It's down low, down low. You don't know what I'm going through, don't know what I'm going.
Hey, welcome back TPL Nation for another draft analysis video, and for this one we're doing one of my favorite coaches and one of my favorite teams, the Indiana Tracers, coached by the one, the only Matthew. And this is a scary team. If we remember, Matthew did incredibly well last season, almost taking no L's on his way to playoffs. And after taking a team he didn't pick, so it was like me but better. But as we look through this team that he's drafted himself, we see the threat Komodo. And Komodo is an amazing Pokemon, I feel, just because it has like 1.5 million ways to set up, a good ability and soundproof. I do have the Figgy Berry on here, but honestly you could run anything on here. You could run Life Orb, you could run something to restore HP, you could run maybe an Assault Vest if you don't want to set up. You could run Choice Band, but I feel like all in all, Komodo wants like some survivability, so I threw the Figgy on there. This thing also gets stuff like Belly Drum, Dragon Dance. It gets of course, it's Clangorous Soul to restore HP. For that, you could use Figgy. But as we keep going, it does get amazing moves. It gets Drain Punch to try to get some health back. You could see that paired with Clangorous Soul. You can see Ice Punch come out, Poison Jet for the fairy coverage. But all in all, I feel like Dragon Claw and Close Combat are going to be some of the premier moves for this. It does also get Stealth Rock, but I feel like the main name of the game for this team is going to be pivoting around to Komodo to potentially get the sweep. He's definitely got a lot of Pokemon that can pivot around on the opponent, and I feel like all in all it can really open up for his other Pokemon to hit hard and potentially even sweep the opponent. And Komodo obviously being able to Dynamax, so I did give it the max airstream. With base 85, it's not the fastest, it's not the slowest. But as we go through Indiana's team, I think you guys will start to understand why Komodo, even with a 4x fairy weakness, will be horrifying to face. As we move on to the next Pokemon on Matthew's team, we see the Porygon Z. Okay, 90 base attack, 135 special attack. You throw a choice specs on this bad guy like I have right here, adaptability right here to boost the attack even further. Like, you have a special attacking monster, okay? Like, literal monster here. Tri-attack, Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Hyper Beam. That's all you need, man. I got the Hyper Beam on here just in case you would just want to drop a nuke on something, okay? Like, I remember Hyper Beam did like 60% to my Gigalith last season. Like, that's a Pokemon that resists it, by the way, in case anyone was sleeping on that. This Pokemon does get amazing moves as well in like Nasty Plot. You definitely want to be careful with this thing running around with Nasty Plot. And you might say, well, it's only 90 base speed. I have something on my team to outspeed it. Well, we'll get there. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. He has options. We move down through. Probably not going to see Recover on Porygon Z. That's not really his whole shtick. We do see Shadow Ball, which of course is another interesting move it could use for offense. Trick Room, in case he wants to run that Trick Room Porygon Z. Sorry, I couldn't say that without laughing. As we keep moving on, not a whole lot that he'd probably use on Porygon Z, but I feel like what else do you need? Choice Specs, Adaptability, Tri-Attacks are going to hurt, okay? Like, anything that doesn't resist is probably going to take over half from that. So Porygon Z definitely going to be a huge threat for Indiana's team to work, because a lot of times, you know, the rest of his Pokemon can pivot around, and like if he doesn't send in Komodo, he can send in Porygon Z, and Porygon Z getting a free switch into something that's slower than it just equals massive damage that the Indiana Tracers are going to inflict. As we move on to another Pokemon that can inflict massive damage, we see the Slurpuff, the one and only champion's weapon right here. I do have the OG, the Keyberry set that Eddie liked to run with Draining Kiss, Energy Ball, Flamethrower, and Calm Mind. So just this thing can be physical or special, but I do like the special set just because with Draining Kiss it gets stabbed. If it was using the physical set, you'd probably see something like Drain Punch. But this Pokemon has really a lot of different ways to set up in front of you. It does have Aromatherapy for support, but it also has Belly Drum to set up that way. Cotton Guard could be super annoying, pretty much making Slurpuff unkillable to physical attacks. Drain Punch right there, like we just talked about. Facade could be interesting if this thing gets poisoned. I could really see like a Lumberry set coming maybe on Slurpuff, like if he knows his opponent's gonna bring like Toxic Spike or something like that. Throw Slurpuff out there, it eats its Lumberry, gets the Unburden boost, and all of a sudden you have a big threat to deal with. Play Rough being a premier fairy type physical move, this Pokemon does get Sticky Webs. And this is kind of what I was talking about with Komodo and Porygon Z. He doesn't necessarily need to set up his speed to sweep you, because he has two Sticky Web users on his team to slow the opponent down. Anything that isn't grounded is going to come out and get that -1 speed on the Sticky Web. So people are definitely going to have to be more cautious and aware that he can set up those Sticky Webs. And we do see Charm, which could come out to hinder some Dynamax Pokemon. Draining Kiss we just talked about. Even though it's in the usually useless moves, I like it as a special move for Calm Mind Slurpuff to get its HP back. Absolutely. As we keep moving down, we see some other stuff it might be able to use. String Shot, we did see that come out in the All-Star game, so maybe that could return. But not a whole lot left to say about Slurpuff. But dude, it's a monster. Like this thing could do Sticky Web support. It could run some kind of like set like this for Keyberry to switch in on say like a Dark type's knockoff. Like a Dark type's not going to want to switch in on this, and if the Dark type switches out, guess what? Free Calm Mind from Matthew. And Matthew's a great coach. He is going to be the kind of guy to make those predictions. So you're definitely going to have to be careful playing around this Slurpuff. It's going to be a monster just like it was last season, and definitely watch out for this. So as we've seen 3 incredible threats, we move on to the next one, Dragouge. And I love Dragouge for his team just because it can do that pivoting around that I talked about earlier. And I don't think I've seen him run the Eject Pack set, but I love this item for Dragouge because Dragouge takes a hit, or lets the opponent switch out, whatever may have you, and then it fires off an Adaptability Max Attack Draco Meteor into the opponent, probably doing close to 60-70% if your opponent doesn't have a Fairy or a Resist in front of Dragouge when that happens, and then dropping Dragouge's attack, Eject Pack activates, and Dragouge gets the Hex on out of there. And then, to be honest, the seriously weakened opponent in front of you can get picked off by Porygon Z, Komodo, or even Slurpuff at that point. So I feel like momentum is going to be something that the Indiana Tracers are not going to be lacking. I do have Flip Turn on here for some extra momentum gain, Toxic Spikes for some nice hazard stacking that I know this Pokemon did assist Matthew in last season. This thing does get interesting coverage and like Thunderbolt. It gets water moves, it looks like, some flying type moves as well. Icy Wind could be interesting to lower something's speed, but honestly with Sticky Webs we probably won't see that come out. But overall, I think this is a solid Pokemon. It doesn't have the deepest move pool, but I feel like with this set, what else do you need? You have the momentum right there, you have huge attacks in Draco Meteor and Sludge Wave, and then you have hazards and Toxic Spikes. What else do you need on this Pokemon? I love this Pokemon because it's simple, it does what it does, and it's really good at it. So as we move on to another Pokemon that's really good at what it does, Gothitelle. I feel like Gothitelle is just underrated in this league. I don't know why. Another underrated Pokemon. It doesn't have the best bulk, but it's got Shadow Tag, one of the best trapping abilities in the world. Like, if he gets this thing, like, do you guys honestly think that he won't get this thing with like a Flip Turn out of Dragouge, or maybe a Parting Shot from Persian into Gothitelle on something he can set up on? You better be careful throwing out your walls against the tracers, because if this thing comes in on it, it's going to set up on it and it's going to kill your wall. And I feel like even if you can revenge this after Gothitelle, it's all in all just opening you up to get swept by Slurpuff, Porygon Z, or Komodo. But even then, Gothitelle is going to be a really strong Pokemon after a Nasty Plot, and you just have to be really sure about what you're bringing it in. It gets decent coverage. Energy Ball's right there. Thunderbolt and Dark Pulse are there to pick up KOs. Shadow Ball's always a nice option. But I feel like, it's a very underrated Pokemon, and if you're not planning for this thing with maybe a Shed Shell, this thing is going to hurt your team. And not even necessarily just this. I feel like you don't even have to worry about it sweeping you. It's just the fact that it can come in, trap your Pokemon, set up on it possibly, or just start throwing off Psychics, Dark Pulses, and Thunderbolts into it. And with the ability to momentum gain around your team, like he's got so many options to just bring Gothitelle in and just end your Pokemon's life. And I feel like, when you look at this team, you're already going to be looking at these 3 incredible Pokemon. You're not even going to be thinking about Gothitelle. And then Gothitelle is going to come in and it's going to trap something that really could have helped you with those other Pokemon. So Gothitelle, I feel like, is going to be a good option for Matthew to systematically remove answers from opponents' teams. As we move on to Persian, I also like the eject button set for Persian just because it's really fast. So with Parting Shot, Knockoff, Gunk Shot, and Play Rough, Persian isn't the best thing to get damage out there, but I feel like it's going to be one of the best momentum gainers for Matthew's team. Having 115 base speed, if you run Jolly Nature, it's super fast. Parting Shot for what you're faster than. Eject Button for what you're not faster than. And I feel like Persian, all in all, can just keep adding to that momentum. With Fur Coat, it's going to take physical hits decently well. Maybe not the best as you think of something else with Fur Coat like Beware. But I think Alolan Persian can still shine. He does have the option for the other Persian, but I definitely think he'll probably run this most of the time. He definitely could roll out the other one. I know that one does have interesting moves. I think it gets U-turn and other stuff like that. So it's very interesting to see how Matthew will implement this really fast Parting Shot user. But I imagine that he's already thinking about just momentum gaining and wearing down opponents' teams with like entry hazards, and then switching into Komodo or Slurpuff or Porygon Z and just sweeping through opponents' teams. So while this team may not look like a whole lot on paper, in practice I feel like it's going to be absolutely deadly. We move on to another Pokemon in Lantern. Lantern being really good, giving Matthew a water and electric type immunity if he needs it, depending on the day of the week. And I feel like with moves like Thunderbolt, Scald, Thunder Wave, and Volt Switch, it's just all around. It's all the options he really needs. This Pokemon gets Heal Bell, maybe if he switches in earlier and catches an unlucky Will-O-Wisp on Komodo, double Komodo out and heal it with Heal Bell, and he gets his Pokemon right back again. But as we move down through, there are a lot of options Lantern could use to be annoying, like Volt Switch, Thunder Wave, Toxic. The only thing with Lantern that I don't like is that pretty much if you don't run leftovers on this thing, any damage you put onto this thing will stay, because its only real way to heal off damage is Aqua Ring, and Aqua Ring is not very good at all. I'm not sure if this thing gets Life Dew, but I doubt it does. But to be honest, even if it did get something like that, you'd probably be just better off just running a different move, to be honest. We do see Stockpile on here, but I feel like Lantern isn't going to be that Pokemon that really just sits on the opponent. So as we move down, that's pretty much it for Lantern, but I feel like it can still be annoying. It can Volt Switch around people's teams. It can throw out Ice Beam, Scalds, Thunderbolts, cripple stuff with status of like Thunder Wave and Toxic. Like overall, just annoying Pokemon, and adding more pivoting momentum into the team with something like Volt Switch. As we move on to their last member, we see Vikavolt, giving them a nice ground type immunity as well. This is going to be pretty good to like help Dragalge and Lantern from catching earthquakes. But As we look through the team, it is their second sticky web user, and Vikavolt is super strong. 145 base special attack. Even a Volt Switch from this can do a pretty good chip. That I got the choice spec set here because I feel like that might be just like one of the best sets he runs. And yeah, you could definitely run sticky web on this. Who cares, dude? Like who cares? Run sticky web and then a hard switch if you must. But to be honest, I do think Vikavolt's going to put in some good work for him this season. Vikavolt may not be the best Pokemon on his team, but it does give him a ground immunity. It gives him a second sticky web user. Vikavolt can hit insanely hard with that Thunderbolt and Bug Buzz. And I honestly think it's got a few decent weapons down through here. Some other weapons that it might use. A Solar Beam could be an interesting one that comes out. I saw Hyper Beam earlier. Don't sleep on Hyper Beam, dude. We're in a draft league, okay? Like, you can't sleep on moves that you wouldn't think would be normally used. I feel like that's one thing that people really have to do in this league. Is you have to look at your Pokemon's full move set, not what they're using on the ladder, dude. Because if you're using just what's on the ladder, one, you're predictable as hell, and then you're just not using your Pokemon to its full advantage, possibly. If your opponent isn't expecting something and you just don't bring it because you think, oh, this is this Pokemon's #1 set, well, I think that's just a little bit closed-minded, and to be honest, it could end up costing you games. As I look through this team, I really love it. The only thing is I'm not really sure I saw like a defogger on this team, which could be interesting. Obviously, he's not going to have to worry about toxic spikes, but I feel like something like rocks or regular spikes could be annoying for this team. However, I feel like what this team's trying to accomplish won't really matter too much. However, if you do get some rocks up, that's definitely going to inhibit all of this pivoting that's going on. So I feel like even with all the synergy and threatening that this team has, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And that is a high score, but I feel like even if he just had like a defogger on here, I'd honestly give it a higher score, probably like an 8.5 or a 9. And you know, maybe you guys don't see it with Pokemon like Komodo, Porygon-Z, and Slurpuff, but I definitely do. Slurpuff was a demon last season, and Matthew is an amazing coach, but I'm just rating it on the team and what I see. If I had this team, these are some of the sets that I would use. But I feel like if you're rating it on like the coach and the team, this is definitely a higher score. But it's an 8 out of 10 for me. Very solid, very solid. You're definitely going to have to watch out for Matthew out here from week to week. And he could definitely be making his second playoff berth in Season 3. So watch out for that guy. I've been Ace Trainer Ryan. Peace.